Hello everyone. Today we're diving into the topic of why calorie counting often fails to achieve weight loss. Let's jump straight in. At first glance, calorie counting appears to be a straightforward approach to losing weight. The logic is simple. Consume fewer calories and you'll shed pounds. This belief is rooted in the concept of the energy balance equation, which is essentially the fat you accumulate equals the calories you intake minus the calories you expend. While this equation is technically accurate, it's frequently misinterpreted. The energy balance formula implies that reducing your calorie intake should lead to weight loss. However, several assumptions within this equation complicate the process of losing body fat, suggesting that merely adjusting calories in versus calories out isn't as straightforward as it seems. Or you increase the number of calories out, so you increase your exercise and automatically you'll lose weight. But there's an assumption in here that's embedded that most people don't see. And the assumption is that these are independent variables. That is, calories in is independent of calories out. That is to say, if what you eat increases the calories out, so assuming you eat 500 more calories, but that increases the number of calories you expend by 500, then the body fat gain will be the same. Now, on the flip side, which is what we're usually trying to do when we're trying to lose weight, if you eat 500 less calories in a day, but your body responds by reducing the number of calories out by 500, then that will also mean that you're not losing any weight. So the key question is, if this is going to work, are they actually independent variables? So we can look to the scientific studies to see if calories in and calories out are really independent or not. And they've been done. We've actually done these studies and they've been around for about 100 years or so. The first ones were done in 1917, and it showed that people who ate less also tended to use less calories. It was repeated by Dr. Ansel Keys in the 1940s in his famous Minnesota starvation study, which was actually a calorie-reduced study. And what he found, of course, was that as you eat fewer calories, your body expends fewer calories. In the modern era, this study was done in the 1970s, so 1971, so more than 50, almost 50 years ago. What they did was they did a very similar study where they're going to give people both sides. So they're going to have people overeat to see if their body is going to respond by expending more calories. And that's in fact exactly what they found. So they had these subjects and they had a 15-day period where they forced people to overeat. They gave them an extra supplement of 1,500 calories, and this is their metabolic rate. They measured the number of calories that these people were using. So at baseline, they were here, and as they overate their bodies, actually started to burn more calories. You can see that they're about a 10 to 20% increase in the number of calories out. Now, the flip side, again, is usually what we're interested in if we're trying to lose weight, which is that if you reduce the number of calories you take in, does the number of calories you expend also go down? And that also is true. So here's the diet. Now, they did a 15-day period where they ate fewer calories. So this is their metabolic rate. So this is the number of calories they're using in a day. And you can see that it dropped by about 10 or 15%. They are using fewer calories. So the point is that these are not independent variables. That is, if you reduce the number of calories you eat, but your body also simultaneously, because of that, reduces the number of calories you expend, it has much less of an effect on weight loss than you would expect. So in fact, there's been many studies like this over the last 50 years. This is a summary of 29 different published studies looking at the relationship between calorie restriction and the change in your resting metabolic rate, which is the number of calories that you're going to need in a day. And again, what you can see is that of these 29 studies, the great majority shows around 15 to 25% reduction in the number of calories that you're actually going to use just due to the restriction in calories. So the point is, when these researchers looked at it, what their conclusion was is that with some certainty, that a decrease in energy expenditure is a universal response to energy restriction. That is, if you eat less, then your body is going to use less. And if you go back to that energy balance equation, that's going to limit the amount of body weight that you're going to be able to use. So what about the flip side? What if you were to increase the number of calories out? That is, if you are able to increase your exercise, well, assuming that you eat the same, then you're going to be able to lose weight. Well, is that really true? Well, when you look at the studies, what they did in this study is they measured exactly how much people ate more compared to the energy they were expending. And this is done in kids, and this was published in 2008, and they did different things. So they said, okay, let's measure kids watching TV. Well, how much increase in calories are they going to get by per hour of watching TV? And it's about 102. So if you're doing nothing, you're just watching TV, you're on average going to be gaining. So you're using about 100 calories less per hour than you're using. But what you'll notice is that moderate physical activity actually shows almost the same effect. If you're doing some moderate activity, so this is 3.5 METs or metabolic equivalent, so this is the equivalent of like a light jog or something like that, what's going to happen is that you're going to stimulate your appetite so that in a free living situation, that increase in exercise actually tends to make you eat more, such that you're actually in a net positive balance. Almost the same as watching TV and not even as good as doing homework, for example. Or if you do vigorous activity, yes, you can start to get even. So doing fairly strenuous activity, you can come the same and be about the same as doing homework. And then you have to get to extremely high levels of activity before you will actually get yourself into a caloric deficit. And that's the reason why it's very difficult to lose weight just doing exercise, unless you're at a sort of Olympic, sort of national level caliber, and you're doing it for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. What you're mostly going to be in is either neutral or actually on the plus side. That is, you're working up your appetite so that you're tending to eat more and putting yourself in a positive caloric balance. So again, the problem is that the calories in the exercise that you do has an effect on your appetite or what you're going to eat. And that's going to limit the benefit of counting calories. So this entire idea that you can simply eat a little bit less or move a little bit more to lose weight is actually built on this assumption that these are independent of each other, and that's not true. We've known it's been not true for many decades. If you simply eat less, your body will use less. If you try to move more, you'll tend to eat more. And both of those things are going to lead to no weight loss. And that's why calorie counting doesn't really work for weight loss. And that's not just my opinion. Millions and millions and millions of people have tried calorie counting. And we know from practical experience that it's a very, very poor way to lose weight. Losing weight isn't just about diet and exercise, and gaining weight can have a deeper impact than you may know. These fascinating facts on fat loss give us more insight into how our bodies truly work. 1. You snooze, you lose. Scientists say getting ample sleep should be a frontline defense in tackling obesity. Research shows that inadequate sleep not only correlates with higher body fat, but can also undermine your efforts to lose weight via calorie restriction. Plus, it can cause loss of muscle mass. This is bad news, considering the more muscle you have, the easier it can be to lose weight. This vicious combination of undermining calorie restriction and reducing your muscle mass can have serious negative impacts on fat reduction efforts. Researchers believe this link between sleep and fat stems from the way sleep moderates two hormones, leptin, which makes us feel satiated, and ghrelin, which stimulates appetite. Lack of sleep decreases leptin, leaving us hungry, and increases ghrelin, making us want food. Keeping these hormones in check can help curb overeating. To help do so, ensure you're getting the recommended amount of sleep someone in your age bracket ought to be getting every night. 2. Get fit, stay fit. Strong, lean muscles aren't just for gym rats. According to clean eating advisor RDN Aaron McDonald, the more muscle you have, the easier it is to maintain and improve upon your fitness level. We know that muscle is a much more metabolically active tissue and is directly correlated with your metabolic rate, said Aaron. The more muscle tissue you have, the higher your metabolism and the easier time you have losing weight in terms of body fat. One of the major ways your body burns energy is via your basal metabolism, the energy your body consumes by simply existing. Everything you do, walking, sitting, blinking, and even sleeping, requires energy. And the energy you expend doing these everyday activities determines your basal metabolic rate. Muscle tissue consumes more energy to exist than fat. Therefore, more muscle means higher metabolic rate. 3. Brain drain. Everybody knows excessive weight can degrade overall health. Obesity is directly linked to higher risk of diabetes, respiratory issues, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. But the impacts don't stop below the neck. Higher body fat can affect brain anatomy and, consequently, cognitive function. Studies show that higher body fat can negatively impact subcortical gray matter volume, used for information processing, and hippocampal volume, used for learning and memory. With age, this negative correlation deepens. Another study, one of the largest conducted on obesity and brain function, found that excessive weight gain reduced brain activity and blood flow. Low cerebral blood flow is the primary predictor of Alzheimer's and linked to mental health disorders like depression, ADHD, schizophrenia, and much more. However, there is some good news. Weight loss has been linked to improved brain health and function. Analyses show that losing excessive fat significantly improved attention, memory, executive function, and mastery of language. 4. Acquired taste. Stigma often associates body fat with love of food, but scientists have long known that obesity can actually curb one's ability to taste, meaning that it's actually thinner people who may have the ability to enjoy food more intensely. Thanks to recent research out of Cornell University, we now know why. In a study conducted on rodents, researchers fed one group of mice a lower fat diet and the second group of mice a higher fat diet. This resulted in the second group developing obesity. Scientists found that the obese mice ended up with fewer taste buds. They also had higher levels of TNF-alpha, a pro-inflammatory cell. The greater presence of this cell was upsetting the cell death and renewal cycle of taste buds, meaning obese mice lost taste buds at a higher rate and grew new ones at a slower rate. We know that excessive fat contributes to chronic inflammation, and now we know that fat-related inflammation not only exacerbates all overlying conditions, but is also responsible for unbalancing the rate of taste bud cell death versus regeneration. 5. It's hard, and that's not your fault. Obesity docs see overweight people walk through their doors every day, determined to turn their lives around. Yet within months or a couple years, the weight often creeps back in. For a long time, this regain was hugely stigmatized, tied to perceived lack of willpower and discipline. But recent research argues that the problem is more grounded in human physiology than we knew. Dr. Joseph Proieto, a researcher from the University of Melbourne, and his team conducted a study on obese patients. Subjects were put on a calorie-restricted diet and assisted in losing weight, but despite long-term efforts and encouragement, the subjects gradually began gaining the weight back. The research showed that in response to calorie restriction and rapid weight loss, the body rebounded with a defense mechanism armed with hormones. Despite subjects still having significant body fat after dieting, their bodies behaved as if they were starving, with levels of ghrelin, hungry hormone, notably higher, and leptin, satiation hormone, notably lower. While more research is required, this study has evoked much-needed discussion surrounding judgment of heavier people and disturbed conventional notions around dieting. Eating fewer calories and expending more through exercise are essential steps to weight loss, but you can maximize your efforts by keeping all of the above in mind. Get the recommended amount of sleep someone in your age range needs. Remember that the more you grow your muscles, the easier you lose the fat. Lose weight, not just for your body, but for your brain. And most importantly, keep in mind that weight loss is difficult. It's not so much one's discipline that is to blame, as it is the body's physiological response to being in caloric deficit. Your best ammunition against this is prioritizing good habits like clean, whole foods, ample sleep, exercise, and a perseverance mindset.